Hello there, Ray here, and guys, we have a brand new snapshot, the first one of 2023. This snapshot is leading up to a new version 1.19.4, but it's also leading up to the 1.20 and includes some new 1.20 features. And at the end of the video, we'll look at some new insight for 1.20 that came out in a recent Mojang video. If you enjoyed learning the newest things like riding on top of a dragon, make sure you guys are subscribed and leave a like. Now let's get into all the different features. They came out with this really cool ride command. So I could do ride, then me, then I can mount, and then I look at the specific entity. And if I hit enter, look at that, guys. You can ride essentially any mob now. Let's go ahead and see if we can ride a dragon. Oh my goodness, guys. We're able to ride the dragon. I guess this is where the top of the dragon is considered. It's pretty far off of the body, but this is just amazing. Guys, we can finally do that. Ride the dragon. It's also pretty cool. You can actually see all the health of the dragon. That's awesome. But the ride command does have some limitations. Guys, we finally got a highly requested feature, that is being able to extend the amount of blocks that can actually be cloned, filled in, or within the fill biome. So if we just set this to a really big number, let's see if we can clone this whole entire mountain. So from one side, let's say all the way to this top piece. Now let's paste it in over here. Always remember when using the clone command, it'll be placed in the positive direction from where you're standing. Let's put it right here. Let's see how laggy it is. Oh my goodness, actually placed in really fast. That's impressive. There you go, guys. We just cloned an entire mountain. Oh, that was awesome. You can see it's well over the 32,000 limit that we used to have before. This is going to be extremely helpful for me because oftentimes I'm working with things that are quite big and it's very difficult to move them around. And because I'm often testing stuff in snapshots, I don't have like mods easily available to do this. Now, one thing I wish they would do is allow you to increase the structure size of structure blocks. Because structure blocks, you have a lot more control on things compared to using the clone command. But as you can see, even though I changed it to 50, it reverts it back to the max, which is still 48 by 48 by 48. Structure blocks also have other limitations, like trying to save something that has an entity inside of an entity. When you load it up, notice that it just saves the initial entity, but not any of the passengers. So if these were changed, as well as some other minor bugs with structure blocks, I feel like they are really useful, and I use them actually quite a bit, even with this. There's some new changes to the clone command where you can actually clone in stuff from other biomes into different biomes, which is pretty crazy. This is by using the words from and the dimension, and then to and then other dimension. For the execute command, you can also use this with if or unless. So you can make it so things will only occur if there's a certain type of biome, block, data, or dimension, or entity, or if it's loaded, or these other parameters. So if I do this command, it should say hi if we're in a plains biome. But if we stand here in Savannah, notice it does not say hi. You can do some really cool stuff with this, especially for map makers. Execute also has a new on parameter, which gives you access to a bunch of different things. So if we do something like this, we can make the vehicle actually say hi based off who is considered the vehicle in the situation. Since I'm executing the command, the boat is considered the vehicle. But if I jump out of the boat, notice there's no longer a vehicle, so it doesn't say hi. There's a bunch of different parameters, so you can specifically target different things in relation with each other. This is great for testing as well as map makers. Now if you name armor stands, they'll actually have a name, and when you place them down, they will retain that name even when you break them. It looks like there's currently a small bug where they lose a tag, so they don't actually stack. Do you guys remember when you first played Minecraft? Well, if it was in the past couple of years, auto jump was always set to on as a default. This would cause your player to automatically jump up in weird cases where you're just trying to stand close to something. I and many others definitely thought this was not supposed to be on by default, and they finally changed this. Now it will always be set to off, and if you want it on, you can always just change it in your controls. Speaking of controls, you can come in here and now control, using your arrow keys, the different settings. So you can go side to side, up and down, and if you want to get to something like this slider here, if you hit enter, now you're inside of it. Now you can move the different settings. So you just use space or enter to enter any of these. This also works for the resource packs, and when launching the game for the first time, the players will be shown an accessibility onboard screen, so you understand how to use the controls. Speaking of accessibility, over here we got a new slider added in. This is for notification display time, and it says affects the length of time that all notifications stay visible on screen. Let's go ahead and give this a try. Let's go ahead and increase it. Let's give ourselves all the different advancements. You can see they sit up there for a very long time. So in case you ever miss some advancements, you can make them stay up longer. Let's go ahead and set it down lower. Now it goes through them faster. Now when it comes to weather, you can specify if you want it to rain for days, seconds, or ticks. So 20 ticks is a very short rainstorm. Let's do 2 seconds. Also pretty short. And let's do 1 day. That's gonna be quite long. Now if you don't choose how long it's going to be. It can be very short. If you don't put any number in at all, it's going to use the randomness that the game already uses when determining how long weather should last. So something like 0 isn't accepted. The data pack version has also been updated to number 11. They did some changes to the network protocol, such as the secure chat session being reset every time a login packet sent. They also added a delimiter packet. This is just something that goes before and after some information that's being sent. So any packets between two of these will be guaranteed to be processed in the same tick. This is probably done so things will occur in the order they're supposed to and not get interrupted. But of course, they don't want to interrupt with their security, so this is not supported when sending stuff to the server. There are unique things that occur within the game specific to some areas. So they moved around how this stuff is handled, such as now having specific tags that indicate how biomes work or where certain mobs will actually spawn in. And you can find these tags like when searching for biomes. You click on spawn gold rabbits, they'll tell you where a desert's at. They also changed the way data works with the strings now having a start and end. Now when it comes to translations, if a specific string has a missing translation, they added in like a default, which is called a fallback. So if it can't be translated, it'll have the default text pop up. Now, even though the snapshot is mostly about changes and bug fixes for the upcoming 1.19.4 full release, they also came in with some experimental features for 1.20. Now they added it so when you're trying to place mob heads on top of node blocks, which is a feature coming out with 1.20, when you right click on them, you no longer have to crouch. You can just place them directly onto them. Unlike when you try to place other blocks, when you try to right click, it'll just activate it. Remember, if you want to try out the new 1.20 features in the snapshot, you have to come over here to data packs and actually select them before starting a new world. With all these new features, I will be experimenting to find new tricks and machines on my testing server during my Twitch livestream. My server IP is on my Discord, and because of Bisec hosting, you guys are able to play along with me. And you guys can even have your very own servers with all the options that they offer. Plus, you can get 25% off by using code RAY or my link in the description. There was some odd and fascinating bugs that were removed in this version. They fixed a problem to do with hopper minecarts if you would just drop a bunch of different items on the ground, including one item such as stone. And then if you had a hopper minecart that's zipping by this pile of stuff, but all their slots are filled in with stone. Sometimes a hopper minecart wouldn't actually pick up the stone in that pile despite it having room. This is because when it came over top of the pile of items, it would end up checking some of the other ones and seeing that they wouldn't fit in these slots and never would get around to actually checking the stone that was on the ground. So this has now been fixed so you can easily pick up just what you want and leave all the other junk on the ground. A problem we noticed when playing around with camos is that when a second player would hop onto the camo, they would actually jump into the first slot and would ultimately be in control of the camo. So this has now been fixed. When the Vex would have an empty hand, it would have it raised up in this salute position. This is seen as offensive, so now it will have its hands to the side. It was that goats could only spawn on top of stone, but now they also added so goats can spawn on top of grass. They fixed the bug that I mentioned with the fire charges, which is when you would right click a creeper with it, it wouldn't actually use up the fire charge item, and now it will. If you'll be happening to sleeping in a bed and then get pushed into an end portal, you would get pushed out of the bed, but oddly enough, you would also cause the bed to be occupied. This is similar to a bug we've seen with the villagers and has now been resolved. Due to the way the game works, there is some strange stuff that occurs at 000 in the Minecraft world. One of those things was that hopper minecarts would pull items out of things very slowly. If we compare that to what happens when we put it over here, you can see there is a huge difference. So now instead of being slow, it'll be fast like everywhere else. If you ever held down Alt to get into the world type of debug mode, you would see the insane amount of different block states there is currently in the game with all the different variations of ways you can place in a block. This also includes all the different waterlog states, which puts the number to be quite high, so high that we're actually going to run into a problem pretty soon. And that's where this next bug report comes into, where the limit of block states is set to 2 to the 19, which is already reached by some mods. And this could eventually affect the vanilla game, so this has been increased. Way back in the day, players used to be able to get hit by different things, and wherever the damage came from, the player would kind of jolt away from the damage, like they actually got hit from it. But way back in 1.3, they actually removed this, so the player moves the same way no matter which direction they get hit. Notice the clip on the right hand side, how the player's arm jolts upwards and away from the area where it's getting hit by the skeleton. Where on the left, the player's arm is just constantly moving the exact same way. So they brought this back into the game after all these years, so now you can slightly tell just by watching the character which way you're getting damage from. Players will no longer have their FOV change when riding mobs, since the mobs don't actually sprint. When it comes to statistics, you would have to do the last damage in order to get credit for the kill. So in this case, the player doesn't get the credit. With this now fixed, you're able to actually do damage to something and have it die naturally, and then your stats will actually show that you got the kill, which is great for seeing how many different mobs you actually killed. When using a command that would place a block relative to where the command block was, it was always placing it on the south side, no matter which way the command block was actually facing. Normally we see these beams that come out of guardians when they're trying to shoot you, but during a certain time of the day, they would only render as bubbles, which has now been resolved. The textures and saddles of different mobs were outdated and have been updated. Notice the size of the slime's shadows. The little guy has a little one, the big slime has a big one. Well, this wasn't the case for the magma cubes, so now the big magma cubes will also have a big shadow. Renaming goat horns was causing them to no longer produce the right noises. In the somewhat recent 1.19.3 version, there was a problem with the villagers just freezing up when placing a workstation near villagers, which they have now resolved. It resolved several issues to do with frozen ocean biomes, so now they should always appear that they're snowing while they're filling up cauldrons. So now zombies will burn in these biomes because it's not actual rain and you won't be able to use your tridents. This also applies to the particles hitting blocks, adding up snow layers and ice, farmland getting wet, and different mobs appearing not to take damage. During testing in the snapshots, we noticed that there was some strange behaviors with camels, such as them immediately sitting down upon spawning or relogging. They fixed these problems as well as a couple others. You can now spread players in a specific dimension. And you can now use the spectate command to spectate entities in other dimensions. In a recent Minecraft video talking about camels, they said there was actually an Easter egg hidden in the camel.
Well, I don't want to tell you what it is, but I wanted to hint. So it's a very, very tiny little Easter egg, but I think it's charming, and I haven't seen anyone finding it yet. It's related to those adorable floppy ears.
Now the camel really didn't do too much with its ears, it always kind of kept them at the same height. It would wiggle them once in a while, but that was pretty much it. We did a further investigation on my live stream, where my viewer Marpy actually looked through the history online and found where there was a reference to camels wiggling its ears. This message was put out back in October, when the pre-release came for the Bedrock edition to have the 1.20 features. It talks about the new features and says how you can get them through the pre-release, and then says, so you can try them all out while they're still fresh. Maybe that means watching a camel's wiggle its ears for hours on end. And it goes on to describe other features. So we thought maybe you had to watch the camel actually wiggle its ears for hours before you could see whatever the literal Easter egg was. But rather than do that, I just asked some people that can look into the Minecraft code if they could find anything interesting. While they're doing that, Marpy also found this video here about real life camels and the basic body languages of them. And it actually had a whole section on camels and their ears.
A camel's ears. There's not much movement when it comes to a camel's ears. They generally don't use their ears as a warning like horses do, but we have noticed that there is some simple ways to allow the camel to trust you through touching behind the ear.
It goes on to explain that rubbing the camel behind its ear will make it more docile. Now in Minecraft, you can't actually rub the camel behind its ear because the actual camel, for what the game recognizes, is just this square that you can see the hitbox. So even if you click over here, it doesn't do anything. If you right click a camel, it just makes you mount it. Of course, if you left click, then you end up actually damaging it. So there's no way to like rub it behind the ears to make it happy or anything like that. Now, after looking into the Minecraft code, Eli the coder got back to me saying that there was 3 different animations that the ears have. One of them when the camel is idle, another one when the camel is walking, and a third when the camel is dashing, which kind of makes the ears go straight back like it's zooming forward. Now, Agnes did say it's something kind of small, so this kind of fits into that. It is kind of a cool Easter egg to add such things that also don't have a huge impact on the game. They also indicate that there's going to be some new 1.20 features coming out pretty soon.
1.20 update that I think is really beautiful is that it's like the journey that connects all the features together. Some that we will announce very soon, and we can explore them together, like on the camel going on a journey and export it. And I just love that the journey ties it all together in the 1.20 update.
And besides new features, they also kind of hinted at what the theme of 1.20 might be. It might be about a journey, which makes you think there's going to be something kind of new added into different parts of the world, so you have to move between those locations. What do you guys think the 1.20 update is going to be called? Now come join me live on my Twitch stream. With new changes comes new farms. Check them all out in this playlist here, or new tricks you could do in 1.20 with this one here. Stop by and say hi to me at my live streams every Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern. And because of you, we recently reached 70 million views here. So thank you for sharing my passion for the game, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.